Well, hello, my party people. Welcome back to NRW. I'm your host here today, Rob, the movie guy, and I thank you very much for joining me today because today I've got for you a very special NEW for a movie I've been wanting to get into for quite some time, featuring my main man, Mr. Scott, the motherfucking man Atkins, for the film Undisputed 3 Redemption. Now, before I get into my thoughts, let's roll the trailer real quick.
Is back in the toughest prison in the world.
This is hell, and now you're in it.
The most lethal competition.
Welcome to the first ever tournament of National Prison Fighters.
Is about to begin.
I want to fight again. Against the best in the world. It's suicide. You just saw your lights go out. Bling!
Ultimate competition. One prize.
Nobody's gonna get past my boy Turtle.
Freedom.
I have to win.
No one goes home. No one gets out alive.
It's showtime.
I made a new wager. You just can't beat the Colombian.
Makes me angry.
Alright, so the film Undisputed 3 was a movie that I was not expecting to be focusing on the character of Boyka, at least not yet, because I thought that the way the second film had ended, we have the character of George Chambers, played by Michael Jai White, after the events of what happened in the second film. He wins the tournament, beating Scott Atkins, fucks up his knee, but he also went up to the man that put him there in the first place, Gaga, pretty much saying to him, next time I see you, I'm gonna fuck you up. And Gaga's response was like, okay, that's pretty much it. So I thought maybe they'll be doing something along those lines to bring that character back, getting revenge on this man, and probably Boyka will be brought in there to serve as a bodyguard to him, and they'll have their rematch, and, you know, that's kind of what I thought was going to be going with that story. But with Scott Atkins doing so good in that movie, and that's where a lot of people got to know Scott Atkins. When Scott Atkins became a star because of that part, because that meant that character of Yuri Boyka was meant to be a villain. He was a villain, but he was a very complex villain. He wasn't really the bad guy. He was just an asshole, but he had a lot of honor in him and a lot of pretty strong set of values of like him being the best fighter in the world. But he didn't want nothing to interfere with his goal and his passion of being the best fighter in the world. And that meant, do not cheat for me. Do not fuck with my opponent. I want him to fight with me at 100% because I want to beat him at his own game. And when you come to find out that this whole thing was rigged in the first place, and he had no idea, he was like, "Fuck you guys! I'm gonna beat him at my own. I'm gonna beat him purely out of the talents of my martial arts skills." And unfortunately, he does not do that. And you actually side with him. You feel bad for him. I know I did. I was like, man, this guy needs his own movie. But we probably won't get it for another, film or two. But when they said, fuck that shit, guys, we're doing it in part 3 right now, and it's going to be solely focused on him, and I thought, fantastic. My prayers were answered. So a lot of people, like myself, were really excited for this movie. And for it to be focused on the character of Boyka, my God, I'm going to be saying this right now, right off the bat here. If you've not seen the movie, I'm going to get into spoilers here because this movie is already 10 years old. This movie came out in 2010, I believe in the summer of 2010, if I'm not mistaken. I happened to come across this movie, like when I finally got to see it was in late 2010, early 2011, I think. I can't recall, but it was around that time. And this movie far exceeded my expectations. I thought if it could at least be close to the second one as possible, the action would be great, but if the story can be okay, that would be good enough for me. But god damn, does it just exceed my expectations and in all areas in this movie. Character story, plot wise, nothing fantastic, pretty straightforward stuff, but just the action sequence in this movie, guys. If you've seen this action in the second film, you'd be like, wow, that was pretty good, but can they do better? The fuck they can. They can do way better. I'll tell you that much right now. And it does not disappoint. There's actually a lot more fight sequences in this movie. And the story, as I mentioned before, is actually a lot better this time around. Now, it's not a very difficult story to follow. It's just a tournament that's being held in this prison out in Georgia. Not the state Georgia, but the country Georgia, located out in Eastern Europe, close by to Russia. And pretty much the best fighters from each respective prisons in their own respective countries are all going to participate in this tournament. And it's a total of 6 altogether. 1 from North Korea, Croatia, France. You also have Colombia, Brazil, Russia, and United States. That's 6, right? I think so. But anyways, so they are going to fight against one another. But from the very beginning, it's all rigged. And these guys who are in this prison, are in this tournament rather, they're all fucked from the very start. The one champion that they have, who is the reigning champ, if you will, and the character by the name of Raul Dolor Quiñones, played by Marcos Aurora, who in real life is Chilean, but he plays a Colombian in this film. But he is the top dog. He is the villain in this movie. Now, I have a lot to say about this character, but I will say right off the bat, I thought he was great. I loved him. He is definitely a very formidable opponent to Yuri Boyka. But I'm jumping ahead here. But overall, though, this tournament is rigged from the start. It's all meant for this guy to win, and the other prisoners have no chance whatsoever. They are all put into some hard labor. They're working in the heat on this rock quarry, just breaking rocks, carrying the rocks, and having to use this wheeler to get up to. I mean, they're just fucked from the very start. And then after that, after a long day's worth of work, they have 1 hour to train. They have to go to sleep and then wake up early in the morning to do it all over again. Meanwhile, their top boy, Dolor Quiñones, he is resting up on this mountainside somewhere overlooking the quarry, and he is covered in the shade. He's dressed in real nice clothes. He's drinking hot tea, whatever else. I mean, this guy is living the life, and he's also getting all the training parts he needs, all the Ivan Dragos he needs, and he is just getting all access to everything that he ever needs, so that way he is made sure that he is set to win this tournament no matter what the cost may be. And that's kind of the overall plot. Now, one thing I also will point out too is that the character of Yuri Boyka, from when you see in the very beginning of the movie, he is not the same man that you saw him in the second film. Having lost the tournament in the second film, he's pretty much never gotten to reclaim that title of him being the best fighter in the world. He's let his hair grow now. He's pretty much put on shit duty, and he is just not the same. So then one day he's able to run into Gaga, which is the guy who set up this whole tournament for him to fight against George Schaefer in the second film. Well, Gaga's back in this movie, and I will say that the character of Gaga, you get a lot more to him in this movie, and my God, do I love this character. And there's a whole stack of developments that occurs in this movie with a slew of characters that I've grown to love, especially the more I see this movie. And I'm not joking when I say this movie. I say this movie. When I say this here, that I've seen this movie almost 30 times. I'm not joking. I've seen this movie a lot, and I love it much each and every time I see it, probably more so than I did the time before. So I love this movie. I know it has its flaws, and it's not a perfect film. It's a pretty straightforward, tropey movie, but goddamn, is this movie so good that I don't give a fuck. This movie is amazing. I love it. So as you haven't already heard before, this movie's fantastic. But the point I'm getting at is that this movie does a great job with character development. Not something you get to see, especially with B action films. It's something that is not very common to see, I have to admit. But after seeing the character of Yuri Boyka, who is actually meant to be the villain in the second film, and you side with him, you actually sympathize with him, especially when he gets his knee all fucked up in the end of the movie, you're like, God, this guy, he's really not that bad of a guy. Hopefully he gets to win in the next movie. And my God, does he win, and win in a spectacular fashion, I must say. But I'm also going to bring up here that the fighting in this movie is top-notch. Now, if you love the fight in the second film, you are going to love it in this movie. I love it in the second film, but my God, this movie far exceeds all that in this film. Some of the best fight sequences in this movie are pretty much it's like they keep getting better and better. But by far for me the best fight sequences here is between Yuri Boyka and this Brazilian prisoner played by actor and stuntman Lateef Crowder. Now, if that man does not sound familiar to you by name, I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case for everybody here. But you may have seen him in other movies here. One of which is a film that I don't think is very good by any means. I think it's horrible, actually. But he was perfectly cast for the character of Eddie Gordo for the movie Tekken. Now, if you play Tekken, you're going to be familiar with that character, Eddie Gordo. And if you want to talk about perfect casting, that man is it right there, because this guy looks like Eddie Gordo and he fights in the exact same fighting style as Eddie Gordo in Capoeira. And given that martial arts background that he has in that fighting style, he is so good in this movie. In fact, like I said before, he delivers him and character Boyka deliver the best fight sequences in this movie. And I have to admit that it's not going to be like some like grand, spectacular, epic fight scene, but it's just like a chess match. It's like a shootout. They're just trying to one up each other, and they know they're like nose to nose, they're neck at neck, and they're just getting here and here and here and here, and then they take the guy down. Oh shit, come back up, and fight again. Oh, hold on one second, let's come back up. It's just a spectacular fight scene. It's really to the point, and they don't hold back at all whatsoever. But the best thing about that particular fight scene is that once the fight ends and Yuri does win, spoiler alert, you get to see a side of Boyka that you don't see at all from any of his other movies, any of his other fight scenes here, which is he sticks his hand out to this Brazilian fighter and picks him up and says, "Good fight." And Lateef Crowder's character says something in Portuguese to the effect of like, "You're also a good fighter too, good fight," something along those lines. And you don't see that in Boyka. Most of the time, he's always fighting. He's like, "Get the fuck out of my ring! You're not going to be good to me." And then he just like goes off and does his own thing and forget that guy he just fought. And for him to do that in this movie, you get to see that, okay, this guy really, really appreciates a really good fighter, especially someone that can really put him in his place and really challenge him in these matches. And he definitely shows his respect to this man, and that's something you don't really get to see at all of this character, because I was accustomed for him to just be like, "Fuck you, I'm the best," and walks off. And whoops, I almost knocked that down. But to see him do that, I was like, God, this movie is really doing something better than I expected, which is giving the character a development that I was just not expecting. And there's a lot of that in this movie too. There are some other characters you get introduced as well, especially with the American fighter in Turbo, played by actor, I believe it's pronounced Michael, because it's spelled Mikel. I don't know if it's Mikel or Michael, I don't know. But it's Michael Shannon Jenkins. This guy is pretty much the brash American, really cocky. He's like, I'm going to win, fuck you guys, and I have this in the bag, so don't even think twice about betting against me because you're going to lose. And he rubs people off the wrong way, especially Yuri Boyka. And he even tries to like size him up as well too. And Boyka's like not having it. He's like, shut the fuck up and leave me alone. But they're forced to work together because all the prisoners that are part of this tournament, they have to be chained up with one another, and they have to work together at this war quarry in the scorching hot sun. Meanwhile, Dolor Quinones is out in the mountaintops just overlooking them, and he's like, "Hey, fuck you guys, I'm drinking hot, some nice tea and water, whatever else." And it's just, he's living the life in prison. So they have to work together, and they are just not liking each other. They're just not having with one another. But as the story progresses, they start to warm up to one another to the point where Turbo is asking questions to Boyka, like, "Hey, where are you from? What are you here for?" Just asking questions, and Boyka's like, "Just fucking leave me alone. You talk too much. You ask too many questions. Shut up. Just do the work." And then they're forced in a situation where they have to confront each other, but confront each other to learn how to respect one another. Hey, listen, we're going to have to work together. Let's just get the job done. Even to the point where, like, hey, listen, we're meant to lose this fight. They're making us work. How about if we use this while we're working here as training? Let's train while we work here, so that way we can be on top of our game. And that's a side of the character that you get to see where they're forcing each other to overcome these hurdles that they have to be dealing with. And Turbo really does that for me. And in fact, I will also point out too that I happened to see another interview that Scott Adkins had done about this movie, and he mentioned something in particular Oh, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't an interview. It was a video that he does on his own YouTube channel where he talks about his top 5 movies that he believes are his best. And Undisputed 3 is definitely one of them up there. But he mentions the fact that some of his best performances come from those movies because the actor that he is acting opposite with brings out the best in him. And this character in Boyka, you definitely see a lot more out of him. But it's because the other actor working alongside him compliments him, and it definitely brings out the best in him. Him and Louis Mandylor in the Debt Collector movies happen to be doing that the best for him, and Michael Shannon Jenkins definitely did that for him. Now, Michael Shannon Jenkins, I'm not familiar with him at all. I don't even know who he was prior to this movie. The only thing I'm aware of that he's done is mainly just soap operas, but I don't watch soap operas, so I don't know how good his acting really is. But I can say that in this movie, I think he's pretty good. And he's definitely in shape. He definitely looks like a fighter. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of reminiscent of what you saw in Undisputed 2. So I kind of thought that was going to be more along the lines of just a ripoff of George Chambers. But thankfully, it isn't. He's definitely a boxer, but he definitely has hints of Muay Thai in his fighting style. And he does fight once in the ring, and he wins the fight. But then he has some scuffles here and there between him and Boyka. And that's really the extent of his fighting here that you get. But he's definitely a formidable opponent, that's for sure. But again, as I was saying before, he definitely brings out the best in Scott Adkins in this movie. And having heard Scott Adkins say that and then watching this movie with fresh pair of eyes since that interview, I look at it more closely. I actually analyze it better now. And I realize, you know what? I can see that now that he definitely does bring out his A game when he's in the scene with this man. And he's actually bringing out more to this character. He's bringing out more in his performance, and I appreciate it, the movie more so now because of that. And I also will say that in the development with these two characters, there is a lot more that you learn about Boyka overall. You find out he's definitely a religious man. I mean, you see him pray before, and especially in the second film and in this movie, that he prays to God before he starts the fight. But here you actually see a lot more of that, where he's talking about how he believes that God had created him for the purpose of being the best and most complete fighter in the world. And you hear him say that in the second movie, but he just comes off as a dick. It's like, I'm the most complete fighter in the world. It just sounds really villainous. But in this movie, having that conversation that he has with Turbo, you start to understand that, oh, there's more meaning behind that. So when he delivers that line again, it's much more impactful. It has a lot more meaning. And I was like, damn, this guy is good. Scott Adkins is the fucking man. When I saw this movie the first time, like I was a fan of Scott Adkins, but at that point I was like, this guy, I was his biggest fan at that point. I was like, this guy deserves to be in the best movies in the world. And I will say that this is no doubt, if it's not one of his best, if it's not his best, it's definitely one of his best, easily in the top 3 of one of his greatest movies of all time. This is easily his top 3. I would have to say it's probably his second best after Avengement. And we've done a review for that movie as well too. So if you haven't checked that out, check that shit out, babe, because we have it on the channel. Dave and I go deep into that movie. But what I'm going to get at next here is that as far as the overall plot is concerned, it's not complicated. It's pretty standard, and just I mean overall, guys, the movie is just so much better this time around, in my opinion. And the second film was great. I love it. I think it's a great movie, very tropey, but all the things that I think that it lacked in the second film, it definitely makes up more in this movie. And the fight sequences are just far superior, and they're great in the second film, but they're far superior in this movie. As far as the villain's concerned, and Marcus Aurora, who plays Raul Dolor Quinones, he is definitely a good villain. There's no doubt he is a formidable opponent. He's actually really tall, and he's a muscular guy for sure. And his fighting scenes with the other prisoners and Scott Adkins are fucking amazing. You can tell why this guy was brought on here, because he is by far one of the best opponents that Yuri Boyka has ever faced here, and especially one of the best fight sequences that Scott Adkins has in his career. But I will also point out too that although he is a fun villain, he's not, for me personally, he's not a memorable one. He's not one I look back at and say this guy was, just it sticks out. He definitely does bring something to the table, and he does, but not to the extent of Yuri Boyka, because in the second film, like I mentioned before, Yuri Boyka is the villain. But when you saw that guy, when you see his character develop, it's like, this guy is awesome. Like I love this character. I did like the character of Dolor Quiñones, but I didn't see him in that same regard as Boyka. I just didn't see him that way. And he definitely is a formidable opponent, but just not as impactful. But nothing to take away from Marcus Aurora. He was great. Like, he really is good. But he's no Boyka. That's for sure. But he is fantastic in the movie. But overall, I also forgot to delve into about the character of Gaga. Gaga in this movie, although he is definitely a shady character in his own right, and he is not to be trusted. And you definitely see that in the movie where he is pretty much siding with the guys who are rigging this whole competition. But you come to find out that he was actually betting on Boyka the entire time and gave the impression to Boyka that, hey, fuck you, I'm here for the money. But giving that false impression to the guys that were rigging this here, so that way they don't suspect that he is going to side with Boyka no matter what. He just didn't want to give that impression away because his life was on the line as well too. And Boyka was like, fuck you, asshole, I'm going to kill you. And he was like, well, Boyka, if you lose, you can't kill anybody, so fuck you. So although Boyka does win the competition and he wins, the ending of this movie is a repeat of the second one, but God, is it ever so satisfying this time around. But you see that Boyka is about to meet his demise because the prison, the warden in that particular prison was like, fuck you, you ruined everything for us, and fuck you. So he's gonna have him killed. But one thing I forgot to mention too is that he did help Turbo escape. There's a whole side plot with that character that I didn't delve into, but when you watch the movie, you'll understand the events that led up to that. And it's a wonderful added story to help move this plot along. And once he helps him escape, Turbo does come back, saves his life, helps Boyka escape, and finds him and brings him over to the car that brought him over to that spot where Boyka was about to be executed. And you come to find out that Gaga was there the entire time, and in fact, he bet on Boyka to win the fight. And he says, "You were betting on me?" He's like, "Yeah, I was betting on you. You think I would not bet on you? You're the best fighter in the world. You told me from the very beginning." And after I saw what you did to get yourself into this competition, I realized that you're the real deal. And I didn't lose any more doubt in you after that. But I just couldn't let them think that because my life was on the line too. So I had to make you think that. So it is what it is, and I'm sorry. He's like, okay, stop the car right now. And this is the part of the movie that I actually came to really connect with the character the most, because this is a part of the character you never get to see. And it may sound cheesy, and maybe it is, but I don't care. I loved it. Boyka is never smiling in this movie. He's always pretty straight-faced and has this mean look. He's just like a pissed-off individual. And when you see him leave, he shares his goodbye with Turbo and also with Gaga, and then walks away. You start to see him just running, and then he's running faster and faster, and then all of a sudden he's smiling and he starts laughing, and that's probably the happiest he's ever been in his life since who knows how long he's ever showed that expression. But that's a side of the character that I just did not expect, and quite honestly, it was one of the reasons why when I saw the end of this movie, when I saw this movie and get into that end, I was elated. I was walking out. I just got up and walked around. I was like, this is one of the best action movies I've ever seen in my life. I love this movie. Now, I watch a lot of films that has a lot of these tournaments, Bloodsport being a big example of that. But as much as I love this movie, and I do love that movie, and I love that movie, it's one of my favorite Van Damme movies. It's one of my favorite action movies. It really is one of my favorite action movies of all time. But that movie pales in comparison to this movie. This movie delivers in all fronts, and it is solely focused on the characters, and you see the development of the characters. There's no added elements, so that's unnecessary. It's all helping to move the story forward, keep the plot moving, and then you get time with the characters. It's a very short film. It's like 90 minutes, but oh my God, do you get some quality time with these characters? And I got to give a lot of credit to director Isaac Florentine, who had directed the second film, who I forgot to mention, both Dave and I forgot to mention, directed that movie, and I'm ashamed that we didn't do that. But here, this guy deserves a lot of credit. Now, Isaac Florentine has directed a lot of other movies too, two of which I happen to do a review on for this channel with Ninja 2, Shadow of a Tear. I have my thoughts on those movies. If you have not checked out those reviews, I highly recommend you check it out, and also check out the films as well too. But this guy, in my mind, is one of the best action directors in quite some time. Definitely, his filmography might be shaky at first, because when you break into the business and not everything you're going to start off with is going to be a knockout and right off the bat. It's going to be, you're going to have to take some time to really develop your skills. But as the years have gone by and his filmography has increased, his showcase, his ability to direct action and direct a good story has gotten better, in my opinion. And I think if this guy's given the opportunity to direct some really high-budgeted action films, he can really make a big difference in the industry. And I do really believe that maybe one day he'll get that shot. Maybe he can get like a deal worked out with Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, some streaming platform that will give him the opportunity for him to showcase his directing skills with the action genre. I think he can do something that'll be really incredible for the mainstream audience, and I really hope he gets that opportunity to do that. Him and Jesse V. Johnson, those guys are some of the best directors in this genre, and they both, although they specialize in particular areas that help tell the story better, to tell the story that's fitting to their directing style. Jesse V. Johnson does a great job in telling a really good story to help complement the action scenes, and whereas I think Isaac Florentine does a really good job in showcasing the events leading up to the action, but having the moment of character either before or most likely after the action sequences. In this particular movie, I think he does his best with that. And I give this movie, if you can't tell already, this movie is a super, super high motherfucking cheers to the highest level. I love this movie. I think this is one of the greatest action sequels I've ever seen. One of the greatest action movies I've ever seen in my life. I truly do love this movie. And I know that I may tend to hype a movie and then people might look at it and it's like, it was good, but it wasn't that great. It was just okay. Man, the fuck were you watching then? Because that movie was awesome. And it is the best out there. It's one of the best of all time, in my opinion. But then again, teach their own. So those are my overall thoughts on the movie here. And there's also a fourth Undisputed film too. And here in the States it was released as Boyka Undisputed. And I think overseas was Undisputed 4 Boyka. That movie is awesome. And I definitely will do a review for that movie one day. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Did you like the second film? Did you like this third film? Have you seen the fourth film? Which one did you like? Did you think this movie was as good, if not better, than the second one? I'm curious to find out your guys' overall thoughts on this movie, so put it in the comment section down below. And if you haven't done so already, you should have already hit that subscribe button before you even started watching this video, because we've got a lot of great content in the works right now that we're really excited for us to share with you. We hope you guys get to enjoy it as much as we did making it, because we really are working hard to make sure that we make great content for you guys, and we would love to hear your thoughts on what we put out there. And make sure you also share and like our videos as well too. Spread the things that is all new release Wednesdays, and we're trying to aim to bring our numbers at 1,000 subscribers, and we're almost at 800, so we're not too far off, but we definitely need your help. So please spread the word. Tell your grandparents, tell your mom and your dad, tell your brother and your sister, tell your cousins, tell your dogs, tell your cats, anyone that has this YouTube subscription, a YouTube comment to say, tell them, check out NRW, New Release Wednesdays, Nerds Rule the World, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button, and keep spreading the word. And we really appreciate you guys if you can do that. And while you're doing that, also check out our social media accounts as well too. We have a Facebook and an Instagram page at New Release Wednesdays, and on Twitter at the NRW. And you can follow myself on my social media accounts. I was choked on myself. My throat's drying up. Hold on one second. Okay, you can follow my social media accounts at Instagram at Rob_Medina0585, on Twitter at RobMedina0585, and on Facebook, simply just Rob the Movie Guy. And until next time, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay safe out there, stay awesome out there, stay sexy, and cheers.